you want access to this podcast earlier than any other viewer, consider becoming a channel member. All tiers get access to this podcast earlier than people who are not channel members, and it does help out this channel a lot. So if you do want to get all of the news updates, discussions, and market information for Flesh and Blood before anybody else, please make sure to become a channel member today. This podcast is also sponsored by Fyendal's Collection. Fyendal's Collection is a collection database website dedicated to showing you the market analytics of all things Flesh and Blood. Looking to track an entire master set? Fyendal's Collection has you covered. It's as easy as creating a collection in their collection tab and choosing which set you'd like to see in all of its glory. There's even an option to only add one of each equipment and cold foil, which really excites my set collecting heart. As a free user, you can upload your collection here to have a great look into what you have accomplished so far in Flesh and Blood. But if you wanted to track your collection in the secondary market, becoming a subscriber really ramps up that analytics portion of Fyendal's Collection. For a measly $3 a month, you get to see the gain and loss each of your collections receive, so you can accurately determine the worth of your cardboard, as far as dollars are concerned. Subscribers also get access to the Market Trends and EV Tracking tabs, too. Market Trends is a great way for you to see what's hot in the Flesh and Blood market, and may even give you some insight into what you should pick up for your own collection. The EV Tracker tool is another great example of the data that Fyendal's Collection can provide. Tired of wondering if you're going to get hosed if you buy a booster box or even a case? Well, the EV Tracker is constantly updated to show what your estimated value is on each Flesh and Blood sealed product, which is a great thing for sealed collectors or even people who are just looking to get into the single selling business. Again, all of these tools and more are available to you for just $3 a month. But how about a free month's trial of the site before you settle in? By going to the subscription section and choosing a promo code, you can enter my affiliate code ASHTCG, all capitalized and all one word, and you will get a month of Fyendal's Collection subscription service for free. So if you've been looking for a new card collecting database for your master set collections, or even just some small little collections of your favorite pieces of Flesh and Blood, look no further than Fyendal's Collection. Don't forget to use the promo code ASHTCG when subscribing to receive a free month of service. Thank you so much to Fyendal's Collection for sponsoring this channel, and let's get back to the video. Welcome on in, Ashwings, to episode 13 of the Common Language Podcast. That's right, we're back at it. I'm trying my darndest to get into making these again, and it's funny because I'm trying to think of topics about things, and I haven't exactly come up with a lot. What I did want to talk about today a little bit is the Commoner Battle Hardened that happened recently in Portland. I know this is still kind of like late news, considering this happened maybe like a week, 2 weeks ago, but it is still something I wanted to talk about because I feel like the Battle Hardened in Portland, which was Commoner format as a Battle Hardened, it really was something that I believe did a lot for a lot of people in the Flesh and Blood community. And I just wanted to give a big shout out to Dice Commando, Andrew, for continuing to be a big believer in the format, much like myself, and even sacrificing his own entry into a format, something that we might not see another Battle Hardened for in a long time, sacrificing his entry into something as big as this so that he could cover it. So if you haven't gone to go check out all the stuff over on Dice Commando's channel in regards to the Commoner Battle Hardened that occurred, I do suggest going to check it out if you're a fan of the Commoner format. I know I am. I watched everything. It really was... It was eye-opening to see untimed Commoner stuff, because in most cases, there's not really like a cut. You know, there's not an untimed thing. You're pretty much just like slamming round after round after round. And then you're taking whoever is like the most undefeated after these rounds and considering them a top 8. But in most cases, you don't have an official top 8 untimed rounds kind of concept. I don't even think the gold foil event does that. And it was really nice to see that there was a structured way about going through this. Something that I really appreciated actually was that in the finals, and I'm sure it happened in other matches too, I wanted to just preface this by saying I absolutely adore Brody Spurlock as a player. And I know that he utilizes every ounce of his brain to make sure that he is one of the best players in Flesh and Blood. And I know that for sure. But Brody Spurlock had entered the Commoner Battle Hardened, and he's always in the Battle Hardens, and he made it to the top 8, made it to the finals of the top 8 of the Commoner Battle Hardened on Oldham, no less. And it was really, really awesome to see. But towards the end of the game, Brody had looked through a lot of the opponent's graveyard, like frequently. They'd often, they'd pick up their graveyard, look through the cards, put down their opponent's graveyard, and then maybe like flick a couple cards in his hand and then do it again. I understand the reasoning behind that, so by all means, I don't think Brody did anything wrong. But what I wanted to bring up here was the fact that the judges who were at the table actually made sure that there was enforced rules for the amount of times you can look in your opponent's graveyard before making a game action. And so it was great to see the enforcement of the rules there. I wish I could see more of that in the Classic Constructed format. But it was really, really awesome to see that there was just a lot of love for the Commoner format all around. A lot of people from the Oregon, general area that have loved the Commoner format. Everybody who goes to a Commoner crawl out there was more than likely in that Commoner Battle Hardened. And a lot of professional faces entered into the Commoner Battle Hardened. And I think it was really, really cool to see a lot of ice in the top 8, which I didn't entirely not expect, but I expected more Iras than I did Icelanders. And it turns out we had more Icelanders than many. It looks like, if I recall correctly, only one Ira made it to the top 8, which was kind of insane to think about, right? It was 2 Chains, 4 Icelanders, an Ira, and an Oldham. So definitely ice screws you over pretty hard in a more aggressive meta. And not to mention the fact that just having the ability to play cards on your opponent's turn is just so good, especially in Commoner, because you don't have as much ways to crack back, right? You can't, your armor doesn't block well enough to the point where if your opponent comes in with a 6 power attack that you get to go, okay, I'm going to block 6 with my armor, keep my whole hand, and be able to gain tempo. It's very hard to do in Commoner. So I feel like it's very, very interesting to see the overall play patterns of professionals and also just Commoner enjoyers in the format itself, people who were able to make it out to Portland to enjoy. It was such a cool experience to watch all of these games and to see Commoner in its prime at this very moment. And what I've also enjoyed is the fact that I forgot to at least tell you, if you haven't gone to see them already, you should go see those videos that Dice Commando made. But the winner was Icelander. It was Icelander versus Oldham in the finals, and the Icelander, John Zapata, was able to take it home and beat Brody Spurlock in the finals to be the winner of the Commoner Battle Hardened. So very good strategy there. Congrats to John for taking it down. And honestly, I think we're going to see more of this in the future. There was a decent turnout. I mean, it was 123 players registered or something for it, which is not a lot in retrospect, but we also probably didn't have a lot of people from across the world making a lot of these journeys, right? You had some people, I think, from Canada come in. You had some people, mostly people from the US, it seems, kind of digging their heels into the Commoner format, but not too much attendance overall. But even still, 123 people at a Commoner event is huge. It's a lot of people. You get that amount for a Battle Hardened normally. And to see that these 128 people were jamming in just commons alone was really cool to see. I do hope that we see more of these events. I'm not sure we're ever going to see a calling of this caliber, because that would be cool, but again, it's probably not happening anywhere besides Portland, if I were to guess. The reason being, of course, that Fab Foundry, Dice Commando, they've all kind of like absorbed this commoner format very, very well. There aren't too many other communities that do it like Portland does. And so I expect if it is ever going to come back, it's going to be back in Portland again. But we'll see. We'll see if that happens. But I am really, really happy to see that happen. And I hope to bring more commoner content to you guys here on the channel, because I like the format, especially as it continues to grow, right? The thing that I liked about Clash over Commoner was that Clash gave me a little bit more to work with the rares, and I was able to make a very thematic and nearly on point blitz deck for $20-$30, right? And that felt really, really good to me. Some heroes, if they're really good into the meta of Classic Constructed, their specializations tend to cost a little bit more, but overall you're looking at about $30 for the deck. And that's great. It allows you to play the hero like you want. You can still play weird fringe things, but you were able to really, you play to your strengths. You were able to play your hero's theme very well. And that was something I enjoy about Clash, and it's something I still enjoy about Clash. But Commoner, the reason I like Clash over Commoner is because at the time when I was getting into Clash, Commoner, it was just hard for you to play certain heroes and certain classes more specifically. Runeblade was incredibly hard to play. Wizards got nearly nothing, and you had to play weird jank ways to play Wizard to even make them somewhat viable. You had, there were like warrior cards that weren't very good. You had like Mechanologist was great, but only Dash and nobody else. And so I think it's really important to note that as sets continue to release in Flesh and Blood, Commoner will continue to grow and change and shift based on these new commons that get released. And I think it's going to be really important to the overall health of the format. Obviously, it's still receiving bans. It just recently had Aether Ironweave banned in the format. So I'm very curious how long it's going to be until we get another ban. But I do know, at least from what I can tell, it's in a pretty good spot. There's a lot of different heroes that are able to be represented. I'm not sure if the 4 Icelanders in the top 8 is enough for LSS to take a look at Icelander maybe and see about banning something that could be problematic in that deck. But Icelander's not unbeatable. She's just really good. And especially if you're a really good player and you're really good at playing Icelander, you tend to do pretty well. But like Guardians seem to do pretty well into Icelander, and you just gotta have it on a turn that they have an all red hand, because Guardians can sometimes have that, and you end up taking a win for your opponent. But hopefully we get another Commoner event sometime soon here. I think that's going to be great for just like the overall level of comfort that players want, because Commoner it's not just because it's specifically for pro players trying to sneak in a win. Commoner itself is really, really important because it allows for those players who believe they're not good in the game, who are just starting out and are like, well, I don't really know what competitive play is like, and I don't want to commit to spending hundreds of dollars to assume what competitive play is like. Commoner is a great entry point for that at like $10, sometimes $20 a deck. You just get it, and then you can play into any competitive Commoner event, and you're at like the highest level a deck could be. You could easily just rip John Zapata's Icelander deck from TCG player and then play it at your locals. Or if you have bulk already, you can just build it in in no time flat, and be able to go ahead and go to your commoner event or go to your commoner armory and play, and more than likely do pretty well. Icelander's a little bit hard to learn, but once you get the hang of it and you do a few practice rounds, Icelander's an amazing hero. So I think really it just comes down to the fact that commoner has always been my personal way that I think people should be getting into the game. I think it's best to start at that lower level and then move your way up. Again, my only gripe is that more LGSs should be running commoner events, and most do not. And the reason they don't is because commoner is not as popular of a format as Classic Constructed is. And because it is not, then you have to deal with, everybody trying to fight for the spot. And if 7 out of the 10 people who go to the LGS on a regular basis want Classic Constructed, but 3 of those people want commoner, Classic Constructed is just going to win. So I definitely think that if you're ever looking to create your own commoner community in your area, just gather all the people who have been denied commoner armories in your local area, and then go meet up at a bar somewhere, right? That's what Andrew from Dice Commando does. He does the commoner crawls where he goes to a pub somewhere and gets everybody together, and they run their own small little tiny event that you just sit down, you have a few beers with friends, you're just slamming cards and having a good time. You didn't need to spend any money on your cards, so you could spend all your money on beer and food, and you just get to hang out. And I think it's a really great beginning point to get yourself into the world of Flesh and Blood, while also still trying to keep that competitive mindset, even though your deck is, effectively pennies on the dollar. So that's my whole thing for that. It's something I still want to do for the Colorado community. I know there's not a lot of people playing commoner, or at least not a lot of people who are vocal about wanting to play commoner. But we do actually have now local to Colorado here. We have the folks of Flesh and Bad, Tegan and Aurora. They both just moved here a little while ago, and it is Aurora got 9th place on Ira in the Commoner Battle Hardened, so that's super cool. So there's got to be, I'm certain if I did enough digging and I found a time that worked best for everybody, I could get people to go to a pub for us to play Commoner and just hang out and have a good time. But who knows, right? Who knows when that will happen, if it will happen at all. But I am always curious to see if, when more local teams decide to go, hey, I want to run Commoner, even though none of my LGSs are running Commoner, I still want to do something. You can set up an event on Gem with your account to run your own tournament. So keep that in mind if you are ever looking to do this for yourself. That is a way you can go about doing it, to get pairings set up, and then you can, buy a box of something and then do like a what do you call it, a misfail thing, or you buy a box of Part the Misfail and you can just hand out packs to people, and I think it'll be a good time. So that is something that I suggest. That's my big thing for newer players, is to find a commoner event near you. If you can't and you still want to just play CC, that's fine. Grab an armory deck. Those are also great starting points. But I think that if you start with a $20 deck and you can play at the highest level with that $20 deck, you're in a good spot to then start growing your own mind into other formats, and slowly incorporating some of these more powerful cards into your deck. Because when you can comfortably know how powerful the commons are in Flesh and Blood, you'll be able to kind of determine why certain Majestics are as powerful as they are. We always talk about things like 0 for 4s or 2 for 6s or a 2-card 8. And we often talk about that, and being able to see that from a common perspective is really good. But if you're looking at it from just like like the card's not a majestic or a legendary, so it's nowhere near as good as a common, a lot of the commons are just crazy powerful. I think it's really something that that's a thought process that needs to be brought through pretty early on in your time, is realizing that commons and rares are not like draft chaff like it would be for things like Magic the Gathering or Pokemon or something, or these cards that you normally would never put in there because you'd much rather have a bunch of the rares or the mythics or whatever. In Flesh and Blood, those rares and commons, the two lowest rarity cards next to tokens, are just insanely valuable. So highly suggest going and doing that and getting some practice in, right? Really taking the time to understand these commons, because not only does learning commons and how powerful they are in constructed help you, but more importantly, it helps you when you draft, because you can see the values of the cards that you're drafting or you're playing in sealed with. And you can say, those stats, I know what those stats are like. Is this ability that comes with those stats worth me taking and putting into my deck? Is it worth me playing this card over this other card? It allows you to evaluate cards at a common and rare level significantly better than if you just played Classic Constructed and you were like, yeah, I only know bombs, right? I only know Leave No Witnesses. I only know Codex of Frailty, Surgical Extraction, Just a Nick, Command and Conquer. All of these cards to be like, yeah, I know exactly how powerful these cards are. You don't really know until you're playing them and you realize their worth when it's the only cards you have in your deck. So definitely suggest going about and doing that. It's just cool. I love talking about Commoner. I definitely need to make more Commoner content for this channel. This is the common language after all. And so while I talk a lot about budget stuff on here, it's mainly just kind of talking points in general in regards to Flesh and Blood. But I always love talking about Commoner and Clash and the effects they have on communities to help continue to grow them for nearly no cost. I think it is something that really helps bring new people in, because it's hard to tell a player, hey, buy a $40 to $60 deck, and then you're probably not going to win your armory. Whereas you could go, yeah, you can buy this $10 to $20 deck, and your deck, your physical deck, is the same power level as professional players in this format. You just don't know how to pilot it yet, right? So if you consider player skill to be from if we're looking from a scale of 1 to 10, right? 1 to 4 down in this bottom part, that's the amount of money you have to put into your deck to make it just kind of okay. And then it's player skill from that point forward. So with $20, you're already at a 5. And then you just need to learn how to play your deck. And you're immediately at an 8, 9, or 10 just by having a general idea about what your deck does. And that makes you a significantly better player in that format. But it does not, it doesn't make you a professional, right? But you can take the same thought process and you can put it to play in your own commoner armories, in your own commoner format events such as commoner crawls or whatever it might be that you run. You can even utilize that if you wanted to play an unofficial format like Clash, and you can play Clash and you can utilize I know exactly what commons I would run in this deck because these commons were really good in commoner. They're probably still just as good in Clash, except I just take some of those they kind of worked commons, replace them with rares, and now you have a better Clash deck. So that's my thought process for Commoner. That's why I think still Commoner is the best way to get into Flesh and Blood, as long as it's available in your area. And if it's not, try asking people in your area to see if they're about it. You could very well just start your own Commoner scene And as long as you can be fairly consistent with it, you can play Commoner at least once a week. So that's pretty cool. But that's going to be probably all for it today. I did want to thank you all for continuing to support the channel. If you are a channel member, you know that you get this content a week earlier than everybody else does. So keep that in mind. And I hope you enjoy the early content. If you're looking to become a channel member, that certainly helps out a lot. And I'm very, very appreciative for anything that you can do. I am hoping to do some kind of channel member giveaways in the future, specifically for channel members for supporting this. So if that is something that you wish to do, as long as you're a channel member at whatever level you want to be, whether that be copper, silver, or gold, you can feel free to go ahead and just let me know, and we can find out a time or something to give away. But I'm always appreciative of what you guys give, and it means a lot. So if you are not a channel member there, though, don't worry. You're still getting access to this content. So feel free to go ahead and give it a like if you enjoyed today's discussion. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And then feel free to leave a comment. Let me know how you feel about Commoner, how you felt the Commoner Battle Hardened went. Did you go to the Commoner Battle Hardened, and did you do well? Did you do poorly? How do you feel the format went? I'd love to hear everything about the format, and whatever you guys have to give. I'm always very, very thankful that that it is available for people. But outside of that, right, it's always a pleasure seeing you Ashwings here. I'm always incredibly happy to be bringing you more and more content for Flesh and Blood, whether that be through Commoner, Clash, or even budget CC stuff. I might get a little bit more into CC in the near future, simply because I only really play CC armories out here. And I do kind of want to get a little bit better. I'd like for my 2025 goal to probably get top 8 in a Pro Quest or a RTN or something of the sort. So I'm going to make that my goal for next year. But overall, I'm just really excited to keep playing Flesh and Blood. I'm going to keep bringing Commoner content to the folks who need it. I'm going to keep bringing budget builds for Classic Constructed if you guys want to see those. And I don't know, maybe one of these days I'll have an actual guest on the Common Language. Who's to say? But thank you all so much for watching. I really, really appreciate your guys' support. It means a lot to me, and I hope you realize how much it really does mean. And we're going to keep doing this. So try to keep me on track for the Common Language the next episode for the Common Language. But for right now, we're just going to go ahead and post this one, and we're going to chit chat about it. And then when the time strikes to make another one, I'll make sure to do that. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope you continue having fun in the Flesh and Blood. And I will see all of you beautiful Ashwings in the next episode of the Common Language podcast.